Hey guys, it's Abby and welcome back to my channel. So for today, we're going to be talking about a bit of backstory on how I started my small business, incorporating a Q&A that I pulled off of Instagram. So thank you guys for sending in the questions. I thought of making this Q&A because first of all, my shop celebrated its 4th birthday last month, which is kind of crazy, but I didn't realize it until I did, so that's cool. And I just wanted to share some advice and tips that I've learned along the way. I've been running a business for the shop. It's been 4 years, but generally I've started running a business since I was 17. So I guess I could pick up a few learnings here and there, all the trends, marketing, and whatever. So let's dive into that for this video. Now keep watching to learn more about it. First things first, thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives where millions gather together to take the next step in their creative journey. Personally, I've been taking up Skillshare classes for the past few months. It's been such a great way to learn new things and apply them to my existing business, and also be able to meet fellow creatives and learn from each other. Members get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes with hands-on projects and feedback from a community of millions. An annual subscription is only less than $10 a month, so it's definitely a win-win if you want to explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity. Make sure to keep watching because I have a special freebie for you guys at the end of this video. Now let's start with the questions. So I divide the questions in terms of different aspects just so it makes things a little clearer. I'll also put the timestamps below for your reference. The first part is more or less my biz history. The first question is, how and why did you start your business? Okay, this is a very easy thing to answer because I started my business, especially for Shop Abbey. First of all, I didn't have a name. I was literally on the fence with running the business. I just did it in a snap because a lot of you guys have asked me, like, I had books out and you couldn't find it in the bookstores, especially where you are, and I just felt really bad about it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make it accessible to you guys. I'll put up a shop, hopefully add in my own stationery, and some perks would be you get freebies from me. I would occasionally sign the books. I handle the orders. So yeah, that was the whole idea of how it started. But the how it's going part is kind of different because now, apart from the books, I also create stationery like washi tapes, goodie bags, different elements basically of hand lettering and creative journaling, and putting them together to put up shop. Where did you get your capital? Now, my first ever capital when I was 17, when I was doing like the tote bag business, was only 5,000 pesos, which is $100. But for this stationery business, I didn't really set a capital, mostly because when I started buying books, the money that I earned from writing those books was used to buy the books. But someone asked me on Instagram, like, should it be like a specific fee, like let's say 20,000 pesos or 50,000 pesos, which is $1,000. I guess it depends on the type of business you want to put up. The second is the equipment. Are you buying it or outsourcing the printing? And third is the stuff that you already have. So the gadgets, do you have a MacBook? Do you have a laptop? Do you have a tablet? Good devices, or you still have to buy, because I think those will factor into the capital of your business. What type of research is needed to enter the world of creative entrepreneurship? Now, the research part is really a lot. I personally like to research regularly. It's not like before I started a business, I have to know all these things, For me, it's all about learning, doing, growing, all at the same time. I think some of the core things that you have to take note of would be like market trend. Are you into vintage themed work? You have to do research, like people who do vintage journaling, like what type of stuff do they have? Colors. I think it's also important to look at trends in the sense of like what are trending on social media, not like the viral stuff, but more of like in the creative sense, like in the stationery world. Listen to people talk about stationery, listen to podcasts, try to get a hold of what is existing in your market. The second is also to look at consumers, what are they buying? 11/11 sale. What do they get? Like, what type of stationery? I'm assuming you're coming up with a stationery business or like a creative business in general. So try to look at what people are interested in. I think that's one way to give you an idea of what to create, first of all. And also, I think with regards to research per se, if you're talking about the administrative stuff, I think you should probably, it's either someone who does accounting or has a small business, ask tips and advice. You can also read my book, Always Be Creating. I listed down some things that you can start there. And, you kind of have to make a business plan, but not in a very strict way. Just establish what you want out of the business. I think that's very important. So yeah, having a business background is not something that you immediately should have when you're starting, but it really matters to have it at the beginning and then, honing it further as you go. I think in some way that sort of benefited me because I'm a business student, and I think my course in advertising really helped me shape how I wanted to market the brand, and that's been a really important aspect of my business, if that makes sense. Now let's go to inventory. How did you choose your products? Washi, stickers, goodie bags, la la la. So one thing that I always tell people is I am my first target market. If I do not like the product, I will not put it out. So when I first created the shop, we primarily sold books, but I really wanted to branch out. At first, I was really keen on having washi tapes made for the longest time, but I couldn't find a proper supplier. I was so scared with all the research that had to go into it, so I wasn't fully committed yet. But last year, 2019, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna bite the bullet and actually do it, like source suppliers, get into it. I think in hindsight, last year was the only year I really got more involved in improving my shop, if that makes sense. Because when I started it before, it was sort of like a side hustle, like, I can make extra money from selling books, but that wasn't really my primary source of income because I still did a lot of books at that time, and I also did a lot of freelance projects. But now I'm more focused on the shop and creating content for you guys and running my Patreon and developing my community. So with that, my whole aspect of running the business became at the forefront, and with that I was like, you know what, might as well go for it. So I chose washi tapes because I love washi tapes. I've been collecting washi tapes for a really long time, and I realized that it's very hard to find here in the Philippines. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just make my own. So after that, stickers I always have done, but I feel like it's not one of the strongest parts of my inventory. It's like, okay, it's nice to have, but it's not something people want to have. I think it's not their top of mind, or so I think. So with goodie bags, my initial idea for the goodie bags was, I was in Japan last year and I went to Traveler's Factory. I was like, you know what, might as well buy some and take them home and, repackage them and create goodie bags, because when I travel, I always give pasalubong. So in English, it's like, I don't know, like a little gift when you travel. I always give that to my friends. And what I like to do is not buy a specific one for them. I'd buy a big batch of chocolates, a big batch of stationery, a big batch of postcards, and like disperse them and put them into bags. I would even buy the bags and then give it to them. So I was like, you know what? I think people would like this idea because I love curating these together. So that's how the goodie bag started. But now it's become more of like, I'm still studying how that works. Like, the goodie bags, they performed well, and then you also have boxes and curating the stuff inside. It's a lot of work, so it's still a work in progress, but yeah, that's how I come up with these products. I make sure that I like them first before everyone else likes them, because if I can't please myself, like what RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell you gonna love somebody else? So kind of the same aspect when it comes to business. Side note, I love RuPaul's Drag Race. Tips for getting good suppliers or manufacturers. Guys, I will not stress this any further. Just Google it. I think the best way that you can get out of Googling, which I like to do a lot, is you don't really have to type in sentences on Google. You can type in keywords. So for example, let's say sticker supplier Manila, Philippines. I think that really narrows down a lot of choices for you, and usually Google will place a lot of ads at the top. you can click them, but I also like to dive deep into the whole, like all of the pages to see like, oh, you know, you can always canvas everything. And one of my other tips is really, well, I don't recommend asking people that because I find it very rude, because Google is there, you know, you can Google it. If you have friends who are willing to share their suppliers, then ask them, you know, it doesn't hurt to ask. I remember I got my supplier from a fellow business owner. I asked her, like, is it okay to ask? And, you know, she said yes. So I think that really is about, you know, proper communication, not in a way like, so where'd you get your washi supplier? Like, don't do that, guys. I've gotten so much inquiries on that. And do you think I will actually give it? It's really something that's part of the confidentiality of the business. So please learn how to respect that. Pricing strategies or markups. So I'm not really the best person to ask when it comes to math, but my usual markup is just ×2. If I really get it at a good rate, I would mark it up to ×3. If you're asking why the markup, first of all, if it's an original design, I mark it up higher if I did the design for that specific purpose. The second one is if it's limited edition, you can also mark it up. You know, having my zine signed and numbered, I think is a more crucial way in making my products more expensive. Now, if you look at it, I asked myself for a long time, like, my zines are like 250 pesos, which is $5. And then my cookbook, my recipe book is 300 pesos. And then my books are also the same price from Summit. But if you do compare them, my books, which are published and distributed in thousands, compared to my zines, which are only made like in hundreds, there really is a big difference, and the costing is really different. That's why I had to price it higher. Also, for example, if I have a collaboration with someone, usually the price point is higher because, you know, it's a premium product. I also like to make my price point firstly is not very expensive, if you noticed. I just didn't want it to be like a big stretch from the current books pricing that I already have. That's why it's not, you know, it doesn't go beyond like 1,000 for a goodie bag box or something, or a goodie bag. So I just try to keep it that way. Yeah, with pricing, you have to try to factor in also like the additional fees that you charge, like for the electricity, labor, whatever. They all the pricing, the markup amount is used for that. So I also try to factor that in. No one really pays us to do the labor, so I think that's really important to add into the whole equation. So for example, if you're doing stickers and you're doing the whole shebang of like using your Cricut or Silhouette to cut it, package it, design it, process the orders, then probably should price it a bit higher to just, you know, pay for your sanity's sake. So I hope that made sense. Do you stock in bulk or once a month? So this is a good question. My logistical aspect with the shop became more efficient this time of the year because it's the Burr months, and, you know, I had a lot of updates in September, October, and then this month, and then, yeah, I won't have updates in December anymore because it's clearly the holiday season. But I stock in bulk. My bulk is usually 100 pieces. I don't go over 100. My sweet spot is 100 to 200 for MOQ, which is minimum order quantity. Now, if you want to learn more about, I'm plugging, if you want to learn more about like business terms, typical printing, vocabulary and stuff like this, I highly recommend getting the Creative Resource Workbook, which is part of the Paper Society PH replay ticket, which is still available until November 30. I will link it down below. So yeah, I try to stock up in bulk because first of all, I have to take pictures of all the items. Second of all, I have to make sure that they are ready for launching. Third is usually I order from overseas, like some manufacturers are from overseas, so they may take some time to arrive here. For printing, it takes usually 1 week to 2 weeks, but I work very slow, so what I try to do to compensate is I do all of the things in advance. For example, the Berlin Documented Zine, the Cook and Eat recipe book, and the art books and coffee zine were all produced together, but I didn't launch them at the same time. I just had to, you know, space them out accordingly. But it was because I just needed it to be more efficient for me, and also I save on shipping. So I hope that sort of clears things up. If you're a shop that creates your own merch and, you know, literally manufacture it in your own home, then I don't think stocking up in bulk is that necessary. But for me, it just takes the headache off of having to produce. For example, you're packing and you're like, oh, I lack one washi tape or one sticker sheet, and you have to make it, and you know, it's just a lot of work. I'm really all for efficiency, so yeah, that's just how I do it. Okay, let's go to logistics. This is more specific to me running a business here in the Philippines, so that is just a tiny disclaimer. Suggested couriers for Philippine shipping. Now, I've been through a lot of Philippine shipping mishaps, but I am glad to say that my highly recommended logistics provider is Blitz, because if you're someone who does a lot of digital work, you have a wallet. I use my PayPal as my wallet to load the entries, and I actually was able to integrate my Blitz account with my Shopify. They offered that service for like some business owners, which I was fortunate enough to be part of. So it's easier for us to just communicate and coordinate it. I also use LBC for provincial orders because I'm registered with them under a business account. My only issue with LBC is you have to write everything basically. It's all by hand, and it really takes a lot of time. Sometimes I'd watch a full movie while writing all the waybills, so it's not really the most efficient way. But if you're not registered with LBC, you can always go to their store to send them some stuff. They're pretty efficient. If you want next day delivery for provincial, LBC is your choice, but personally I just prefer Blitz. It's really the best. If you're delivering within Metro Manila, you know, there's Grab, Lalamove. Personally, I like Mr. Speedy because earlier in the quarantine, when everything else was full, Mr. Speedy was there to save the day. So I've always trusted Mr. Speedy. You know, I have to pick up some samples, you know, pick up some print stickers from different printing shops. I use Mr. Speedy. How does your shop schedule work? I don't really have a set schedule, but since my brother started working last October, our schedule's always been every Tuesday we pack stuff, either pack stuff or prepare boxes for launch, and Wednesdays are for pickup, or Thursdays, depending on how frequent I update. So for example, for the birthday sale, I had a lot of pickup dates last week, and then Fridays, if we really need to go to the office, I go with my brother because he doesn't have school, and then we pack and sort a lot of things. I mean, this isn't part of the question, but my days for shop are usually Tuesdays and Thursdays because Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are for Patreon and for YouTube work and everything else. When did you consider to hire assistants? I've had assistants since I started, mostly because I don't run this full time and I'm not the best person for customer service. I really lose my patience. So I'm really glad that for this year, I have Rhea on board. She does the customer service. She's not here in Manila with me. She's like way south, but we're always in communication for the shop. And then my brother helps me with the labor-intensive stuff. I recommend hiring assistants if you feel like you really need an extra hand with other things. The larger the business became, the more complicated it was for me to manage everything on my own. At some point, I really had thought of hiring a product photographer, but because of the lockdown, I had to do it myself. But next year, I just want someone to take photos, and you know, I'll just hire them because I have budget for it. And yeah, but I still also do everything else, like managing the Instagram account. I enjoy it, so I just do the work that I really enjoy, and then everything else I try to delegate it. Okay, now let's go to my favorite part, marketing. How often do you update, or should you update items for a new shop? My suggestion is usually monthly. If you're not keen, or if you're too busy, or you don't really have time, maybe every 2 months, every quarter. And also, I think it depends also on the type of products you provide. Because if you're going to update books every month, that's pretty crazy for you too. But if you're going to update like sticker sheets or little things like washi tape, stationery, postcards, prints, then that's totally fine. How did you find your audience online? I'd like to thank my past self for doing this for me because I didn't really have to largely promote my shop. In terms of audience, widening my audience, I would say the percentage of, not really percentage, I don't know, but the people who follow the shop, the audience personality is kind of different compared to those who follow me, as in my personal account on Instagram, because these people really like to shop and they're really into stationery. I think that's really a deciding factor for them. We usually have repeat customers, so I guess they really are loyal fans of the shop. And then we also have people who are just starting, or maybe they found me through YouTube or somewhere else that I am virtually present in. So I guess that all like feeds itself and the traffic just goes to the shop. So it's like a narrow path going there, but there still is a path. Okay, let's now go to tips and advice, aka the last part of this. I didn't want to make this really thorough because if you're starting a business, it might get overwhelming, but I'm hoping to do more Q&As in the future and provide some small business tips. So if you're keen for that, please leave questions and comments down below. So what makes running a shop so rewarding for you? A very Miss Universe question. Well, I just really like the idea of providing a great experience for the customer. I've always been that person who really tries to think of what the other side, I have this side where I'm doing the work, making the stickers, making the art, and then the other side is the person who receives it, who orders it, who supports it. Because when I started writing books, that was also my mission. Like, I want to know what the reader wants to get out of my books and how I can provide that. And with the shop, it has the same philosophy. I guess it's more of how, they use it, how I create a piece of a washi tape design, how they decorate it in their journals, how it makes them happy. I also find it very rewarding because, now that I'm thinking about it, it's a very hard question. I just like sharing my creativity to people. If that isn't any obvious, it's also the reason I have a YouTube channel, I have an Instagram account. I share my creative knowledge with you guys, and I try to make it, I guess in some way, my personal philosophy has always been to make art accessible to everyone, and through my shop, I'm hoping to do just that. And I think also to some extent, the reason why I created goodie bags and things like that is, I know not a lot of people can go to different countries and be able to get the stationery or limited edition pens or stuff, and I just want to do the work for you because I care about you so much, guys. And yeah, I feel like I'm a mother for saying that, but that's basically it. And yeah, I still like doing it. I feel like a lot of my creative visions and values really go into the shop because I have the full liberty of dictating what I can do with it, and I also like listening to your opinions and try to incorporate them into how I run my shop and how I design stuff for the shop. What are your top 3 tips for running a business? Okay, so the first one is to identify what you want out of the business. Is it something that you're doing because you want to make money, extra money, you want to use it as a side hustle? Do you want to do it because you just want to exercise your creativity and have a creative outlet? Do you want to do it because it's something second nature to you as a brand, like, oh, I design stuff, I want to make stuff and make a store? And the second one is to keep experimenting and exploring different options. I think I would have not had gone this far if I didn't try all the things. From trying different platforms, I was on WooCommerce, then I moved to Shopify, trying different techniques for doing my Instagram promotions, creating content strategy, creating the products. I took a lot of risks this year, particularly because it was a pandemic.
I'm sure you're gonna ask this, so I'll answer it later. And also because I had no plans of producing zines, but I did. So here we are, you know. It's really a lot of these different things and taking a lot of risks, because that's really part of running a business. The third one I'm getting from, I'm borrowing this line. I'm not sure if it's the most direct translation for it, but I've been watching a K-drama called Startup. So if you want to start a business, I highly recommend watching that. I also really love Mr. Han, aka Kim Sean Ho. I'm bad at this. So anyway, he told Dalmi, who was an aspiring CEO in the K-drama, you should not ask too many questions or look for answers, because I think she was getting this book called a Q&A book, and you know, it's really about making the choices, and I think that's really important, because making choices, you make a lot of choices when you're running a business, you know. All the decisions on the daily are up to you. For the longest time, I felt really scared of this, because I am a Libra moon, so I'm the worst person to make decisions for. Like, I cannot decide for myself, but I can decide for other people. So with that, I think it really comes with a price. But what I like to think about when it comes to making decisions is, once you make the decision, there's no right or wrong decision. It's how you face that decision head on and how you approach it is what really matters. That way you don't regret it in the long run. So I hope that made sense. Now, in relation to how I survived during the pandemic, it was kind of hard, but we had to close down for 3 months. So March, April, May, I think we restarted end of June or mid-June, because the shipping was just halted everywhere. With that, I just decided to, because of that, I was expecting to clear out a lot of my 2019 inventory, which I haven't done yet. I have managed to do that because we recently had the birthday sale, but I still have a lot, and I cannot proceed to making new stuff for next year if I don't get rid of my inventory. So with that, we put up a mid-year sale, which I think was great. We're able to bounce back from that. And yeah, I think after that it became a little bit more busy for the shop because of August, September. You know, burr months are always a great way to put it out. For the start of the year, we had a lot of good sales because we just moved to Shopify, and also I had my birthday sale, which is also going to happen next year. We also started doing, when we talk about it's basically just me. Yeah, we had a lot of different approaches to the product lines also this year, and the product mix, you know, included goodie bags, washi tapes, new designs. I tried to make the washi tapes a bit thicker, if you noticed, for the new shop update, because I was like, you know what, maybe the 15mm by 10 meters is too thin. So it's a lot of changes, but you know, I'm happy with how it's going. I'm also looking into creating more goodie bags for next year, so I'm still like figuring out what my shop is going to be. I'm actually carving out this November and December to just sit down with myself and plan the direction of the shop. Ideally, I would have wanted to be able to ship internationally, but now it's very limited, so I just opened it to my patrons. If you want to be a patron and access that, make sure to pledge with the link down below. Yeah, I mean, I was planning to also move this year, but alas, that didn't happen. So if that happened, I could have been able to ship abroad, but you know, not really thinking about those for now. You know, instead of thinking about the things that I didn't necessarily achieve or I don't have, I always think about the things that I already have, because you know, it just helps to just focus on what you have right now. So yeah, that is my very lengthy Q&A. I hope it gave you some insights on how to run a business, how to run a small business, how to run a small creative business in particular. Let's be realistic here. If you have more questions, make sure to leave a comment down below. Hopefully I'll make a part 2. This is a bit off topic, but I am coming out with a content coaching program next year. I'm still working on it, but this was because I really want to help small businesses promote their work better and, you know, establish an online presence. So if you're keen to get more updates and be part of the waitlist, make sure to check the link down below also for that. Last but not least, thank you so much for Skillshare again for sponsoring this video. The first 1,000 to click the link down below get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. That's thousands of amazing and inspiring creative classes and business classes for you to learn more about how to run your own business and establish your online presence and basically the whole shebang. I will link some of my favorite classes down below as usual, and if you want to get access on my videos earlier than everyone else plus exclusive content, make sure to be part of our growing Patreon community, and with that you can support me and I can support you on your creative journey. This has been Abby and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!